Hi everyone, my name is Christina and I'm an implementation consultant at Prosymmetry. In this video, I will be reviewing security groups in Tempus resource. Security groups are an important tool administrators can use in their overall role management and access strategy to help define Tempus permissions. In Tempus, you can group projects and resources into security groups and then give different user groups or roles access to appropriate security groups. So let's take a look at how this works in Tempus. What we'll be discussing is how security groups tie into your overall access structure to further refine how your end users can interact with your data in Tempus. Security groups can be defined for both projects and resources. Once projects or resources are grouped together into a security group, administrators can grant access to them when establishing access rules for global roles. For more information about creating your global roles and establishing access rules, please check out the other video on that topic. In essence, security groups are just another asset in our security model to give organizations the flexibility and granularity to maintain the security levels that they need. To configure security groups, step one is to create the groups in admin settings, and then in the project security groups tile and/or resource security groups tile. So let's take a look at our project security groups tile first. Here we can see any existing security groups that I have in my environment that I created. There will always be a default security group that projects and resources will automatically belong to, but then you can create other security groups as a way of tagging the project or resource information as belonging to that group. To create a new one, you will just type in a name here and click Create. Once the grouping is created, all we have to do is tag the projects or resources that should belong to that security group. So we can do that by going back to our home screen, and let's go into project management where I have the security group attribute pulled in as a column, and we can see that for any of these projects, I can define what security group it should belong to. By default, they will all belong to the default group, but I have a couple here that belong to something called my compliance project group. I can do the exact same thing on the resource side by creating a resource security group in this tile and tagging my resources in the resource management tile by pulling in security group as a column there. Once the projects and/or resources have been categorized into their respective security groups, we can grant access to those groups through our access rules in admin settings, and then in this project access tile or resource access tile. So let's take a look at project access. Here is a rule for a custom role in my system called Resource Manager that defines how this role can interact with my project data in Tempus. If I click the pencil icon, I can see that currently in the middle column, they have access to all projects in my system. But maybe instead, I know that this role should only have access to the projects that are held within my security group called Compliance Project Group. So I'm going to change their access by selecting that security group here and clicking Save. Now, anyone who has the global role of resource manager will see the next time that they log in, their project management tile will have shrunk in size because now they would only have access to these 3 projects, and those would be the only projects that appear here and throughout Tempus. Again, I could do the same thing to group my resources into a resource security group like I can see here. I have one called Compliance Resources that 3 people belong to, and I could change any access rules for my global roles within the resource access tile to further refine what kind of resources my roles should have access to. So instead of granting my resource manager access to all resources, I could instead say they only have access to my compliance resources that belong to the Compliance Resource Security Group and save that rule. As mentioned, security groups are another tool you have to further refine your security policies in Tempus and are commonly used to divide up your project and resource lists based on your different user groups and what they do and do not need access to. I would highly encourage you to check out the Help Center articles on this topic as well, or speak to your customer experience representative for any additional help. Thanks and have a great day.